Imagine, it's September 2008. A tiny rocket company is literally days from shutting down. 3 rockets have already exploded. The co-founder has bet his last personal dollars. His other companies are collapsing at the same time. One more failure and it's over. Forever. But on September 28th, 2008, something happened that changed spaceflight forever. Why is that moment still talked about today? Because it proved a private space company with almost no money could do what only governments had done before. And it set the stage for everything that followed. In 2002, Elon Musk founded SpaceX with one big, almost impossible idea: make space travel cheap enough that humanity could actually become multiplanetary, starting with Mars. He had looked at NASA's costs and thought, there has to be a better way. He even tried to buy cheap rockets from Russia. When that didn't work, he decided to build his own. Why reusability? Why not just build expendable rockets like everyone else? Because throwing away a $60 million booster every single launch makes going to Mars or building anything big in space ridiculously expensive. Reusing the hardware was the only realistic path to the vision. The first rocket was tiny by today's standards, the Falcon 1. They launched it from a remote island in the Pacific. March 2006, failure. Second attempt, failure. Third attempt in 2008, failure again. 3 explosions, and the company was out of money. Musk was waking up in the middle of the night in physical pain from the stress. He split his remaining cash between SpaceX and Tesla just to keep both alive. Most people would have quit. Why didn't they? Because the 4th launch was already stacked on the pad, and walking away would have meant the dream died with it. On September 28, 2008, Falcon 1 finally reached orbit. It became the first privately developed, liquid-fueled rocket in history to do so. The relief in the control room was visible. The company lived barely. But one success does not pay the bills. NASA stepped in with a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. And that deal quite literally saved SpaceX. Why does getting to the ISS matter so much? Because it proved that this little company could actually deliver on NASA's toughest requirements, including docking, berthing, returning cargo safely. In 2012, Dragon became the first commercial spacecraft to visit the station. Suddenly, the entire industry had to pay attention. Now here's where it gets really interesting. SpaceX didn't just want to reach orbit. They wanted to land the rocket's first stage back on Earth and fly it again. Why? Because the first stage is the most expensive part. If you can reuse it 10, 20, or even 30 times, launch costs drop dramatically. That's the only way the Mars dream stays alive. They tested it with a bizarre-looking prototype called Grasshopper that hopped up and down like a giant pogo stick. Then came the real thing. Early attempts didn't always go perfectly, but on December 21st, 2015, Falcon 9 Flight 20 delivered satellites to orbit. And its first stage came back and landed vertically on a concrete pad in Florida. A few months later, they landed one on a floating drone ship in the ocean. By 2017, they were reflying used boosters. The space industry had never seen anything like it. Fast forward to 2020. Crew Dragon carried NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, the first time Americans launched to orbit from U.S. soil since the space shuttle had retired. At the same time, SpaceX was quietly building something even bigger, Starlink. Why build thousands of satellites just for internet? Two reasons. First, it connects remote and underserved places on planet Earth. Second, the revenue helps fund the much more expensive Starship program. By mid-2026, there were over 10,000 Starlink satellites in orbit, the largest satellite constellation ever built. Then came Starship, the 400-foot-tall, fully reusable mega rocket designed to carry 100-plus tons to orbit and eventually take people to the moon and Mars. You've probably seen videos of early tests ending in spectacular fireballs. Why is that? Because SpaceX uses a completely different philosophy from traditional aerospace. Build fast, test fast, break things, learn, and repeat. Instead of spending years designing the so-called perfect rocket on paper, they fly prototypes, watch what fails, fix it, and fly again within months or weeks. By May 2026, they had completed their 12th integrated test flight. They had already caught the massive super heavy booster with the launch tower arms multiple times, something that looked like science fiction just a few years earlier. Version 3 of Starship was flying with more powerful Raptor 3 engines. Today, SpaceX launches more rockets than any other country or company even combined. Falcon 9 alone flew well over 160 times in 2025. Many of those boosters have flown more than 20 times. They've carried cargo, crew, national security satellites, and built the backbone of global satellite internet. So what comes next? SpaceX has said that they expect Starship to begin delivering real payloads to orbit in the second half of 2026, including the much larger next-generation Starlink satellites that each carry over 20 times the capacity of today's versions. They're already under contract to land astronauts on the moon for NASA's Artemis program. And the long-term goal remains exactly what it was in 2002, making humanity multiplanetary. Uncrewed missions to Mars are the next logical step, followed eventually by people. The question is not whether will space change in the next 10 years. The question is, how fast can one company keep pushing the frontier when almost everyone else said it could not be done? From 3 failed rockets and near bankruptcy to landing boosters on drone ships and catching 400-foot rockets with giant mechanical arms, SpaceX's story is one of the most remarkable in modern engineering. And the most exciting part, the biggest chapters are still ahead. Thanks for watching.